Well, as you can see, I'm all rigged up here, so hopefully everybody can hear me. Thank you very much for coming along to this presentation this afternoon. It's going to take around about 45 minutes, a little bit of me talking, but also as well you're going to have the opportunity to get a bit active and a bit involved. We're going to have a quiz with prizes. This session really is all about taking personal accountability for your work-life balance. I tend to call it work-home balance because we have work and we have home, and that's our life really, isn't it? And we do tend to spend more time at work with our work colleagues than we do at home, you know, with our friends and our family. So really this session is about giving you some tips and advice about how you can embrace and take accountability of that more effectively. Just to give you a little bit more background knowledge about why I've been invited here today. My name is Liggy Webb. I work for an organisation called the Learning Architect, so we work with Asda. I also work as a consultant with the United Nations, so I travel quite extensively, and I've just got back from Afghanistan, so I can honestly say that was an absolutely fascinating experience, and if anybody wants to know more about it, come and have a chat with me afterwards. I'm also starting work with UN Women now, which is a new division of the United Nations, which is really looking at fair treatment of women throughout the world. So that's a very interesting exercise that I've become involved with. I'm the author of 3 books. I've got a book that came out last year called How to Work Wonders, which is looking at how you can work more effectively in the workplace. The Happy Handbook, which is a compendium of modern life skills, and my new book that's out in May is called Thank You, and it's all around the psychology of appreciation. And a friend of mine and I were talking the other day, and she said, you've really got to write a book about kind of relationships with men and women, I think. And I noticed that Judith in her presentation said, you know, men and women are different, aren't they? So have any of you heard of the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus? Yeah. Well, my friend said what you should call it is Men Are From Bars and Women Are Genius. So I may well start work on that one. Being the best that you can be, you know, this is what it's all about. I do a lot of promotions and presentations around people tapping into their potential, and sometimes we really don't know what we're capable of, and this is all about being the best that you can be, because you might think, well, I'm fine as I am, but imagine if you could feel even better about that. And it is about discovering your true potential. I love this slide because very often it can be the other way round. We don't actually see what we're capable of. And in psychology, there tends to be 2 kind of ideas. One is that we're a bit like a glass and we keep learning and we keep filling up. The other is that we're like a small acorn, and within that acorn we have the potential to be this big oak tree, because we have amazing ability within us that we really don't know anything about. And it's certainly a school of psychology that I buy into, the fact that we have this potential and we personally are capable of being able to unleash that. And it's all about understanding ourselves. It's about self-awareness. You know, if we could have a good look in the mirror and really know ourselves how we think psychologically, know ourselves how we are physically, and also as well about the kind of like energy around us. Because I absolutely have a belief that what we put in to the world, we're going to receive back. So it's absolutely thinking about some of the consequences of everything that we do in our everyday lives. And taking personal responsibility. It's all about accountability. You know, you can have lots and lots of different input from lots of different areas in very many positive ways, but it's not what you actually know, it's what you do with it. And this is all about taking personal responsibility. We live in a culture very much where we blame other people. You know, it's very easy to say, well, it's your fault and you make me feel like this. But we absolutely have choice. In every single thing we do, we absolutely can make the choice to adopt healthy habits or perhaps to adopt unhealthy habits. And it's all about thinking, really. If you have a look, on your chairs, you've got a little card here. And this is called Life is What You Make It. And I'm just going to read you this poem because it's a bit of food for thought, really. Because everything you do and the consequences of your life all start off with a little thought that goes on in your mind. And this thought is, yesterday I had a thought. That thought became an emotion. that emotion turned into words, the words fueled action, the actions become a habit, my habits are my character defines my destiny. Today, therefore, I'll think about my thoughts a little more. So it is all about what you're thinking about. And this really looks at positive mental attitude. I'm sure that you've all heard this expression being used. You know, you need to think about your attitude and you need to be more positive. And I absolutely believe that by thinking positively, you can actually attract more positive things into your life. And, you know, sometimes we do experience pain, and that's not a negative thing, because if we don't understand pain, how are we really going to know what pleasure is all about? So that's really, really important. And actually, even if you are positive, it might not necessarily affect the outcome, but you're going to have a better time. And I think this quote is absolutely perfect, because it says whether you're an optimist or a pessimist may not affect the outcome. It's just that the optimist has a better time in life. So, you know, it's that glass half empty, that glass half full, but thinking about things in a positive way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get you involved in a quiz now, because I think it will be interesting for you to get some ideas about health and well-being and some of the statistics now that we have to actually embrace in modern living. The first one then is, how many people suffer from depression worldwide? And the answer is A, it's 120 million. According to Mind, which is the organisation that looks after mental health in the UK, 1 in 4 people will be affected by depression. And by 2020, it's going to be the second biggest leading cause of illness worldwide. So if you don't suffer with some kind of anxiety or depression yourself, the chances are you're going to come into contact with somebody who's either a friend, a relative, or somebody you work with. So mental health issues worldwide are becoming increasingly really quite concerning. What percentage of our daily routine is comprised of habits? It's D, 90%. Habit, incidentally, by definition, is something that you do in the subconscious mind. You have your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. So we learn to do things, and the more regularly we learn to do them, they become a habit, and we push them into our subconscious mind, so we don't even need to think about them. Question number 3, how long does it take to form a new habit? It's actually C, 21 to 28 days. And if you want to take away an old habit and put in a new habit, it's going to take you anywhere up to about 3 months. That's how long it takes to take away an old habit and bring in a new one. How much do we spend on fast food every year? Well, we actually spend B, 3 billion. That's just McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Burger King. If you spend an additional £2 billion in kind of shops and supermarkets, but with the 3 billion that's spent every single year in this country on fast food, there's an interesting fact I learnt the other day, that was B. The interesting fact was that every single day in this country, 3.4 million people go to McDonald's. So there's quite a lot of extra junk food that's being eaten. Question number 5, the leading cause of death worldwide is B, cardiovascular illness. Question number 6, how many working days are lost each year due to stress? It's D, 13 million. Question number 7, what percentage of your body is made up of water? It's C, 65%. Question number 8, what vitamin is good for the nervous system? It's B, vitamin B. And question number 9, how much water does the body lose normally each day? It's C, 1.5 litres. If we're exercising for 30 minutes a day, which is the recommended amount that we need to do, then we'd be losing about 2 litres of water, which we need to replace. And finally, how many people in the UK are overweight? It's A, 6 out of 10. And if trends continue because of the lack of exercise and the amount of junk food that we're eating, by 2050, 9 out of 10 men and 8 out of 10 women will be overweight or obese. So we really need to look at, you know, the way that we're conditioning ourselves and healthy living, which I'll talk about in a bit. I think it's quite interesting, some of the statistics, really, you know, from some of those questions. I'm just going to talk to you a bit now about kind of like happiness and well-being. It's an area that I've been really submerged in for a long period of time. And travelling a lot with the United Nations, it gives me an opportunity to go and work in lots of different cultures and lots of different environments. So you're kind of going from places like Ethiopia to Afghanistan to going across to, Europe, and seeing all the different ways in which people live. And you kind of think, well, culturally, we'll probably be all very different, won't we? But when it comes to happiness, happiness is a very interesting area, because there seems to be kind of a common denominator with happiness and what makes people feel good. The Buddhist definition of happiness is quite interesting, because what it is about reducing the distance between reality and expectation. And very often, we find that we live in a world, a consumer world, where it actually suits the world for us to be a bit insecure, so we want to improve all the time and we want to buy things. I guess from some of the research that I've been doing is that finding happiness is not that difficult, because happiness is very much from within, and it's all about balance. It's all about balancing your life. And I guess that's what this work-life balance is all about, or this work-home balance, because it's about making sure that holistically, in the way that you think, the way that you are physically, and your environment and the relationships you have around you are really important. So what I'm going to do is just give you a few tips and suggestions based on some of the findings that I've put together. The first one, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you two questions. Okay, hands up if you had a really, really bad cold, you would go up to somebody at work and sneeze in their face. Everybody do that? Don't say it depends on who it is. But the chances are you wouldn't do that. I do want to see a show of hands, though, because I'm going to ask you, have you ever had a bad day at work where maybe one of your colleagues has rubbed you up the wrong way? It might be something's happened at home. It might be your boss has asked you to do something that's really stressing you out. And you go and find a colleague and you have a good old whinge about it. We all done that? Okay, what I'm going to share with you is some very interesting research that has been done on the human mind. Because right up until the 1960s, we actually used to do a lot of analysis on the human brain from soldiers' brains off battlefields. So it was always on dead brains. Now, with modern technology, we can actually do analysis on live human minds and how they work. And one of the things that has been discovered is something called neural mirroring. And what this actually demonstrates is, if you are with somebody who's really negative and really down, you can actually catch their negative attitude germs. So if you think about it, it's a bit like drains and radiators. I'm sure we've all experienced this, haven't we? You meet people and they are like drains. They just drain you of your energy. The kind of person that you walk up to and you go, "Hi, how you doing?" And they go, "Well, I feel really miserable, I feel really negative." Or we all have friends, I suppose, don't we? And they'll ring up and you'll say to your partner, because you know, don't you, that you're going to get, quite a lot of negativity. And they absolutely drain you. Then you have these people who are like radiators, and they literally do radiate you, because you meet them and no matter what's going on, they're really upbeat and they're really positive. And I was doing some motivational speaking on a cruise ship, and this guy came up to me afterwards. He came bounding up and he said, "Really like that bit about drains and radiators." He said, "I'm a radiator." He said, "Guess how old I am?" And I looked at him and I said, "Well, I'll be really, really honest." I said, "I guess you're about 65. He went, "Oh no, my dear." He said, "I'm 85. And I watched him during that cruise and he was amazing. He was such a radiator. And when I found out about some of the things that had happened in his life, he really did have such a fantastic attitude. So it's really good to have a look at this and say, am I a drain or am I a radiator? The other one is the doom goblins. We have those, don't we? The doom goblins, well, they love bad news. Any bad news that's going on, fantastic. Because in actual fact, redundancy. "Oh, have you heard the news? We're all doomed. We're all going to lose our jobs." And actually, when you say to a doom goblin, "Oh, we're okay, it's all going to be okay," they actually look physically quite disappointed. I'm sure that we all know people like that. And it's about embracing change, because one thing that is an absolute constant and one thing we're never going to change is the fact that change is going to happen. And as Charles Darwin said, and he summed it up really brilliantly, in that it's not the strongest of the species that survives or the most intelligent, but it's the one that's the most adaptable to change. And that's absolutely